Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. Going to have a quick look at the weather for the weekend and into next week. Very uncertain what's going on for the weekend at the moment. We've got the remains of ex-Hurricane Joaquin in the North Atlantic, as we know, at the end of the week and into the weekend. Where this storm is going is producing a lot of uncertainty. Yesterday's idea was to take the low pressure down towards Spain and Portugal, keep it away from us. There are still models going for that scenario, particularly the ECMWF, but other models want to bring that low pressure right towards us over the weekend. Now, it's not going to be a hurricane, so don't worry about that, but it is going to be quite a deep area of low pressure, which contains the remains of Hurricane Joaquin, and it could well give us a pretty wet and windy end to the weekend, a bit of an autumnal sort of soaking perhaps as we go through into weekend and next week. But it is very uncertain where this area of low pressures go, so we'll have a look at all the detail on it in a moment. Also have a look at the CFS V2 for the coming month. But quite a big change from the CFS for the coming month compared to what it's shown a few days ago, so have a look at all the detail on that in a second, and also today's showers. But before we get on with that, let's just talk about the ad system. Articles on our page. Use that gas office, have a browser widgets. Any articles that you're interested in, please click through. You'll be able to go and read the article, and thanks very much for doing that. There's also video ads. Most pages open up when you watch them. They'll close back up again. It's all helping to pay for the website. So thanks so much for getting involved, and thanks for doing that. Just very quickly have a look at the radar picture from theweatheroutlook.com. We've got two distinct areas of rain across the country today. We've got this heavy rain up in the northeast of Scotland. This is persistent outbreaks of rain across east of Scotland, stretching down into northeast parts of England. Then a dry spot through much of northern England, Wales, Midlands, Lincolnshire and East Anglia before we come into these heavy showers down in the south. You see there's a very vibrant colours in with those showers. When you see the pink and reds showing up, that's torrential downpours. There's no lightning being generated by these showers yet. If you have a look at the lightning detector, we can see that there's no flashes of lightning. But as these showers trundle northwards across England and Wales through the course of today, don't be surprised if you see some flashes of lightning and hear some rumbles of thunder, because there's some pretty big and torrential downpours in there, and quite a bit of energy going into those heavy showers and downpours, so they could well generate lightning later on today. Torrential rain as well. I don't think the lightning would be widespread, by the way. It's not going to be widespread thunderstorm, but just the odd flash here and there. But some pretty torrential rain in with those showers. So if you're off out and about on the roads, driving about this afternoon or this evening, take care if you run into those showers. The roads could well flood, flash flooding in those heavier downpours. So yeah, pretty lively afternoon coming up. Now after today, things will start to calm down as a ridge of high pressure builds in for the second half of the week. And that's sort of the uncertainty for the weekend then. So this is the stochastic pressure chart for the GFS model for Friday. And you can see that we've got this area of low pressure in the Atlantic, just there in the central part of the Atlantic. That is the remains of the Hurricane Joaquin. And where this area of low pressure is going is very uncertain. The idea yesterday was to take it down in that sort of direction. And some models are still going for that sort of idea, but other models want to move that low pressure in that sort of direction. Now, I've got this area of high pressure sitting over Scandinavia and stretching down into Central Europe on Friday. So we've got a real battle taking place here between the low pressure remains of Joaquin trying to move in that direction, and the high pressure trying to keep the air going in that direction with easterly winds and very chilly air trying to come in off the continent as well. So let's see how things develop on the latest run of the GFS. This is just updated for 6 o'clock run, and up to Saturday we keep that high pressure dominating over Scandinavia and central parts of Europe. There's the low pressure waiting out to the southwest, but by Sunday that low pressure is starting to move in towards us. Now it isn't a hurricane, don't worry about that. We're not going to have to worry about hurricane force winds. Doing a little bit of Michael Fish here. Hopefully I won't be caught out, but it isn't going to be a hurricane, but it could be quite a nasty area of low pressure. It could bring some pretty heavy rain, and there are tiny patches of paths wrapped around this low pressure, so it could certainly be windy with gale force winds perhaps for parts of Ireland. And that low pressure then sort of sits down to the south and southwest as we go through into Monday. So you get the idea there's a real battle there with the high pressure over Scandinavia, this low pressure down to the southwest. This could be bringing a lot of heavy rain across England and Wales, and cold temperatures as well, because there's cool air coming in from the east. Courtesy of this high pressure over Scandi. So cool and wet for England and Wales, probably still just about dry for much of Scotland to start next week. And as we go through the week, that low pressure sort of slips down to the south, so it goes back where we was talking about yesterday, down into southern parts of France, Spain, Portugal, the Mediterranean, by the time you get through to Tuesday, with this ridge of high pressure building across the top of the low pressure. The winds are still in from the east and northeast, so it'll still be cool and quite windy, but turning drier through to the middle part of next week. And then as we go through into the second half of next week, when it stays very mixed, that low pressure is still sort of knocking around across central parts of Europe. That's sort of the leftover remnants of the low pressure that's causing all of the confusion. By the time you get through to Friday the 16th, that's sitting over Denmark somehow. I'm not quite sure how that happens, but anyway, it's still there across Central Europe, lurking about, possibly producing rain in the east by this point. But I think the overall idea is that we have an improving picture through the course of next week after potentially a very wet start down in the south. Now, east NWF keeps that low pressure away from us, so it's quite straightforward. We have high pressure across Scandinavia on Saturday with these east winds. There's the remains that of the hurricane down there around the Azores. And as we go through the weekend, we just keep that low pressure to the south, so it runs into the Bay of Biscay and Spain and Portugal on Monday. I mean, it's sort of through the central part of the Mediterranean, or certainly rather it's through the central part of the Mediterranean as we get through into Monday. And the high pressure just ridges through the country Tuesday into Wednesday. And then low pressure starts to move down from the northwest through the second half of next week, bringing cooler air and probably a band of quite heavy rain through the country Thursday and Friday. So that's a completely different solution to the GFS, with the remains of Joaquin staying down to the south and the southwest, and that's sort of the idea that we had playing out yesterday. The GEM, meanwhile, wants to go with the GFS and bring that low pressure towards us. So again, we start off on Saturday, got high pressure over Scandinavia, mainly dry weather from the east. There's the low pressure lurking down to the southwest. We get through to Sunday, here comes the low pressure moving into Ireland, getting tightly packed ice bar, so it's likely to be windy with gale force winds and very heavy rain driving in from the Atlantic Ocean. And that low pressure then is right over top of the country to go through into Monday, so this is even more unsettled than the GFS actually. It's right over the country with its showers along the spells of rain. By Tuesday, the low pressure is starting to slip down to the south back into France, and high pressure building over top. The winds stay from the east, so it stays pretty cool through next week, and the low pressure with the heavy rains down across southern France by the time you get through into Wednesday. By day 10, Friday the 16th. The low pressure is still knocking around through central parts of Europe, and the high pressure is building through. So obviously we've got the idea here that it's a very uncertain outlook from sort of Saturday, Sunday onwards. Where is this low pressure going? Is it going to go to the south of us as the ECM wants it and not impact us, or will it come in and give us a proper cold, wet and windy spell Sunday and Monday, which you're going to have to wait and see. I don't think models have at all got this pinned down yet. I've got to do the 5-day forecast tomorrow. That's probably going to be a bit of a nightmare trying to get back together. But yeah, it's a very, very uncertain period coming up. And this is one of the features that you tend to get with sort of September, October, where we have these storms coming into the Atlantic, and well, they really do throw the whole weather system into turmoil, if you like, and that's why model reliability tends to plunge a lot through September and October, always very tricky months to pin down. Talking of chopping and changing with models, the CFS, the long-range version of the GFS, is now going for an unsettled October. You remember when we did the October month-head forecast last week, CFS was seeing high pressure just going on through October, and I was a bit dubious about it, but JMA never really agreed with it. Well, now it's sort of done a flip, and it's going for a much more unsettled coming month. So this is the 500 millibar high anomaly from the CFS from the 5th to the 11th of October. The high pressure is slipping up to the northeast. At that point, low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. This is the low pressure that contains the remains of Joaquin, of course, moving into the west of Europe, bringing unsettled conditions. Whether that hits us, or whether it goes down to Spain and Portugal, of course, we know that is uncertain. But the west of Europe and the general pattern turns more unsettled through this week. And then we go through to the next week period, 12th to the 18th of October. Look at this. We've got a trough of low pressure right in across many western and northwestern parts of Europe, with northern blocking going on above it. So that's pretty cool and very unsettled, actually, with the flow going like that. The air's coming down from the north and the northeast through the middle part of October, and that low pressure is providing a lot of heavy rain. That would be a very good scenario for cold and snow in winter, actually, with all of this blocking up here. It won't be cold and snow because it's only October, but that's the sort of thing you're looking for in January, sort of pattern that you want January if you want cold and snowy conditions. But this is a big change on what the CFS was seeing last week. Week 3, 19th to 25th of October, still very unsettled with that trough of low pressure right over the top of the UK. And then week 4, taking us to the 1st of November with this update. We find the low pressure trough putting out into the Atlantic. Possibly this ridge of high pressure over Scandinavia is starting to take over again, maybe backing the winds into the east. That's a bit speculative. But it's a big change on what the CFS was throwing out last week, which was high pressure all the way, really, for October. And I was dubious about it when I did the October month-ahead forecast. I sort of sided with the JMA, which always looked more unsettled. It looks like the JMA has won this battle between these two models, and we're likely to have a more unsettled month. The CFS could be overreacting, though, to the remains of Hurricane Joaquin, of course, so may not be quite as bad, actually, as the CFS is indicating this morning. But it certainly has shifted a lot from where it was last week, and I think we will have a more unsettled month than the CFS was expecting or forecasting last week. But quite what's going on with this, the remains of this ex-hurricane, very uncertain, as I'm sure you'll have gathered by now. 5-day forecast tomorrow, so we'll be trying to get a forecast together for the weekend and see what's going on. But I think it's going to be a bit of a job, actually. So keep checking back. It's a very interesting period. That's all for now, then. Thanks for watching.